And it got us talking generally about the whole idea of religion and atheism and all of that sort of stuff. And we said, let's try and apply it to an Irish context. And luckily enough, there is a man called Michael Nugent, who's a well-known blogger from MichaelNugent.com, who talks about happiness, atheism and life, and a man we've talked to before here on Phantom Daily. And he joins in studio now. Afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon.
It's good to have you with us in studio today.
Yeah, it's nice to be here, enjoying life and not worrying.
Good. Well, that's a good start anyway. I suppose the question we'd asked people when we started off, when we were talking about the feature last week, was, and when we talked about the poster campaign, as to how it might go down if it was to happen on buses trundling around the streets of Dublin.
Well, I think that there's an awful lot of people in Ireland that aren't particularly religious. We don't go around shouting about it a lot, despite the temptation to do so, given the way non-religious people are treated by default here. But if you look at the last census, there are almost 190,000 people said that they had no religion. And then there's another 80,000 or so that didn't answer the question. So you've about 250,000 people who either said they'd no religion or else didn't answer the question. It's quite a sizable minority.
I was going to say it is. There's 250,000 in a population of 4.3 million there or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's technically it's the second largest grouping after Roman Catholics.
And when it comes to something like this, I suppose to give people a bit of background on sort of atheism in general, it's very much based on the idea of, you know, facts, evidence and reason, I suppose, isn't it?
It is. Well, at its simplest, it's either one or other of two things. It's either saying that there's no God or else not saying that there is a God. And they're both particularly unremarkable claims. If I was to say that I don't have 5 heads, it's not a particularly remarkable thing to say. It's equally saying that there are no supernatural beings intervening in our lives and creating the universe. It isn't particularly remarkable. The default position is that rational thinking makes several things more likely. It makes inquiry more likely, in terms of just trying to find out rationally what is true. It makes empathy more likely, in that people are going to treat each other as fellow human beings rather than being told what to do by deities. And it makes equality more likely, in that you're going to have a secular society that's based on respect for everybody rather than on rules that are handed down by a book that was written several thousand years ago. Right,
and of course, I suppose I don't think anybody would disagree with any of that. But the idea of needing rational explanation for everything, you know, there's a lot of things that go on in our lives, and we were talking just before 3:30. We got talking about the idea of love and marriage and all of that sort of stuff, which is probably one of the more irrational things that happens in our lives. Do we need, a rational explanation for everything?
Well, it's not so much that we need a rational explanation, it's just that whatever explanation that we come up with, we come up with by discussing it among ourselves. And we decide as natural beings, well, this is what love means to us, this is what humour means to us.
Yeah.
That's all that it is, really. It's not dictating what your ethics should be or what love is. It's just saying that it comes from within us. It isn't dictated to us by an imaginary being who wrote a book 2,000 years ago.
Right, and if we did see, let's just say that the campaign that has been running now in the UK with the there's probably no God, now stop worrying and enjoy your life. If those buses did start chugging down O'Connell Street, do you think that people would have a problem with the idea of it, or would have a problem completely with the wording of it?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. I mean, as you know, you were talking about there is a complaint in England about it. If people did have a complaint about it on the basis that you can't prove that there's no God, they should equally have much more complaints with promotions of the idea that there is a God, because the evidence certainly, in all probability, is leaning towards there not being a God. If you take, for example, not technically an ad, but last year there was an ad banned by the Advertising Standards Authority for slimming pills, and it was banned on the basis that the company couldn't substantiate its claims that it would soak up fat from your food and so on.
Yes, yeah.
Now, the reason I remember that particularly is on the same day that ban was announced, the Pope was announcing an even more unsubstantiatable special offer, which was that if you visited Lourdes within a year, that you'd get time off from purgatory and you'd get to heaven earlier when you die. Now, on any basis, those type of claims are far more unsubstantiatable than the unremarkable claim that the world is broadly speaking, as it seems to be.
Right. And when it comes to atheism and the idea of proving, and once again, back to our rationality again, is if in a hypothetical situation somebody was to come along and present evidence, that an atheist was to find convincing of something, in this case, the existence of God, that's a large part of atheism, that you're willing to accept that evidence then.
Sure, exactly. And whatever is true. We don't know what it is. We're not claiming that we know certainly what it is. All we're saying is that on the basis of the evidence that we have so far, we're living beings that live in a natural world that's part of a natural universe, and it's up to us to figure out the nature of the reality that we live in, and to figure out how best to live together, and how to treat each other, and how to be kind to each other, and to have a society built on those values.
And when it comes to the idea then of faith, is obviously when it comes to people themselves have an idea, they've got a notion in their head, and they get to take comfort from the fact that they have faith, they have a belief that they may perhaps not be able to rationally explain to you. Is that something that's missing from atheism, or is it something that's an alien concept to you? The idea that you would have faith in something that it doesn't necessarily have a rational explanation.
No, well, you don't have to be able to explain everything. There's nothing wrong with saying I don't know. There's nothing particular. I mean, we can't know everything. There are things that centuries ago people didn't know that we now know, and there are things that we don't know now that in a couple of centuries' time people will know.
Right.
Just at any given time, there's things that we don't know. Some people in any given generation happen to call those things God and say God did it.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And you yourself, and of course some like-minded individuals have now got involved in the Atheist-Ireland project.
Yeah, it's a group that we've started off with a meeting last month, and we're going to be formally launching it soon. It arose out of a website called atheist.ie, which is a discussion forum where people can discuss atheist-related issues in Ireland. And we've now formally started an organisation called Atheist Ireland. And its aim, we've two aims. One is to promote atheism and reason over supernaturalism and superstition. And the second aim is to promote an ethical and secular Ireland where the state doesn't support or fund or give special treatment to any religion. And arising from that, the type of things that we're going to be looking at initially are promoting a secular Irish constitution. Currently, our constitution starts off by saying that all authority comes from the Holy Trinity, and that we humbly acknowledge our obligations to our divine Lord Jesus Christ. I mean, it's quite fine for people to do that, but that shouldn't be in the constitution.
Yeah.
And there's some extraordinary claims in the constitution, such as the state acknowledges that the homage of public worship is due to Almighty God. That's not actually a defence of the right of people to worship God. That's a defence of the right of this God to be worshipped. Right. We're placing the rights of the gods within our constitution, and it may sound like it's just picking holes, but there are cases where fundamental rights have been interpreted on the basis that we have a Christian constitution, and so they have to be interpreted that way. So the constitution is one thing, and the second main thing we're looking at is the education system, and the need to have a secular education system where people can be taught rationally and can learn whatever religion that they want from their religions, but not from the education system. Very
good. Well, if people want more details, they can go to the website atheist.ie.
Atheist.ie, and they can get involved in either discussions or indeed get involved in the preparation for the launch of the organisation by going to atheist.ie and just getting involved in the chat there.